Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be using Aqua Cast Eco Resin from Elichem Resins in my new gingerbread person mould from Moulds and Shapes. The finished gingerbread person is very large and it stands up by itself, and I thought it would be really cool to adapt it and give it a Christmas garland wrapped up with LED lights to give it an extra Christmassy feel. So that's what I will be doing today. If it sounds like fun, stay tuned and enjoy the video. The mould I'm using today came along with a selection of other Christmas themed moulds from Moulds and Shapes, as I've already told you. But yeah, I wanted to show you the other moulds that I received as well. You have already seen some of them probably, if you watch all of my videos. You've seen some of these moulds already, but let me show you them. So this first one is one I have used on a video before. This is the Christmas decoration mould, and I used it with Aqua Cast and then jazzed it up with all different decorations and they looked fabulous. So that's the first mould. I haven't used this one yet, but this one will be a hanging wall decoration and I think that looks fab, really good. You could do all sorts with that one. I can't wait to have a try. Here we have the large gingerbread person, which I will be using today. This one is not a shiny mould. It will give you a matte finish. The idea is to use it with eco resin. You could use it with epoxy, but if you do, it won't be a shiny finish. But you'll see what I do in the end. I do use epoxy today, but yeah, you'll see that soon. And I love this one. I haven't used this one yet either. Lovely Christmas bauble. Absolutely gorgeous. I love that Scandinavian style design. And you've seen this one before, probably anyway. And yeah, I liked that one too, the Gonk bauble mould. So I will leave links to all of these and a discount code in the video description. Let's get on with the project. Right, there'll be no silicone cups for mixing my Aqua Cast this week because this one is huge. I needed a big bowl for this one. I had previously filled it with water to find the volume, and I used the Aqua Cast calculator on the Elichem website to find out how much powder and how much water I would need. But I actually decided on using less. It's a very deep mould and you don't need to use the full depth. With hindsight, I kind of wish I had because, yeah, I just think it would have worked better, but it does work fine if you use less. I think I used 400 grams of volume in the calculator. I can't remember what it told me to use for powder and water, but I think I did put in 400 grams for the volume. It's actually 500 grams, the overall volume of this mould. So you probably know by now how easy it is to mix up Aqua Cast Eco Resin, so I'm going to zip through this. Basically, I weighed out the amount of water that the calculator told me to, and then I added the powder and gave it a good mix. I then added some pigment from Homeware Design on Etsy, and it's the apricot pigment. Once it was all mixed, I added a small amount and gave the mould a good tapping and shaking just to make sure that there were no air bubbles or air pockets trapped in those fine details in the front of the mould. And once I'd spent a lot of time doing that and been very thorough, I poured in the rest of the Aqua Cast. I've got mine on my levelling table. My actual craft table is already level, but the levelling table is very handy because it means you can move it about easily to do the tapping and whatnot. And here I'm just putting my air compressor next to it because the vibrations help to release more bubbles. After about an hour, I took it out of the mould. It came out nice and easily. Moulds and Shapes moulds are very flexible and soft, and they're always a joy when it comes to demoulding. And so, yeah, it came out nicely and it was almost flawless. just a couple of little bubbles that were missed, but other than that it was good. And at this stage it will be a little bit patchy until it's completely dried out. So yeah, I left it after demoulding it until the next day to allow it to dry, because I wanted to put resin on it and I didn't want any water to still be trapped in there. I wanted it to have a nice long drying time. Okay, so it's the next day and it was time to seal it. I'm going to be putting resin on this, and just in case there was any moisture left in the Aqua Cast, I thought it would be a really good idea to seal it first. So I'm using Hydroflow Sealer, which is also from Elichem Resins, and I'm just using a big thick brush to brush it on all over. I didn't brush it on the back because that way if there is any moisture still in there, it can still come out. So I gave it another hour after I'd sealed it, and then it was time for the resin. The resin I'm using this time is Supercast, which is the new resin from Elichem Resins. I recently did a video review for this. It's great stuff. It's a 1-to-1 resin by volume, and it's a little bit lower in viscosity than a lot of 1-to-1 resins, which is great because it degasses by itself really well. After mixing up the resin for about 2 minutes, I separated it into separate jugs. I needed some for the main body and some just for the hands and feet. I decided to use a copper coloured mica powder for the body and liquid pigment. I had to think then. White liquid pigment for the hands and feet. I wanted the hands and feet to look like they just had white icing on. And now after seeing the video as I'm speaking, I realised I wasn't quite truthful there. I actually added some white mica powder as well as the liquid pigment to give it a little bit of sparkle. And once I'd finished doing all of that, I left it to cure. I left it until the next day. 8 hours is enough, but yeah, I left it until the next day anyway because I had other things to do. Like you do, we're always busy, aren't we? So anyway, I wasn't completely happy with the way it was looking, and I had an idea to give it a black outline. After finishing it and seeing it, I wish I hadn't made the outline black. It was a bit too severe, but obviously you can use your own imaginations and work out what would look good. You know, we can't get things perfect every time, can we? And when things don't go right for me, it helps you to know what not to do, doesn't it? So I'm just using a black acrylic marker to go over all the outline. And then when that's dry, I'm going to be going over it with UV resin with glitter in there. And that's why I needed to make the background black, because I didn't want the orange showing through any spaces in there. Because obviously when you're using glitter, it's not completely opaque. You're going to see some of the background as well. I also covered the eyes and the mouth and the buttons using acrylic painter pen, and so then when all that was dry, it was ready for the glitter. So the glitter part was very straightforward. All you need to do is put a little bit of UV resin into a little silicone dish, add your glitter, mix it up, and then carefully apply it wherever you want it. And that's as easy as it is, really. And then all you need to do is cure it under your lamp for 2 or 3 minutes. For the buttons, I did the same thing, but this time with green glitter. And around the edge, I actually purchased some black glitter to really try and make that black outline look nicer. But the glitter was rubbish. It wasn't even sparkly. How can they call it glitter when it's not sparkly, eh? I don't get that. So that was money wasted. I used it on the eyes first, and so the eyes don't look very glittery. But for the outline, I decided to add some silver in there to give it a little bit of sparkle. So when it was finished, I was quite happy with it. I would definitely use different colours next time, but it still looked really cute. It's a brilliant mould. Anyway, because I wasn't 100% happy, that's when my brain started coming up with another plan. And this is where I decided to add the garland. I'm just using my Dremel with the drill attachment to make some holes in the hands at the top and the bottom so that I can slot my garland into them. And as you will see, Aqua Cast drills very easily. The drill went through there like butter. It was brilliant. Right then, for the garland, I got some chunky green pipe cleaners. And here I'm just testing it for size, and as it happened, it was a perfect size and I didn't need to shorten it or lengthen it. And then I cut two shorter bits and made them bendy to stick in the bottom, and it makes it look more realistic. I was glad I decided to put 2 holes in there underneath as well. It just looks better with the garland coming down from the bottom of the hands. Right before adding my lights and connecting it more permanently to the gingerbread person, I decided to thicken the garland up, and I'm just wrapping another pipe cleaner all around it, and that works really well and very easily too. Then it was ready for the LED lights. My LED lights are battery powered. I think there's 50 on there, and what I did was I unravelled all the lights, folded them in half so I knew where the middle was, and then started from the middle of the garland and worked down on each side. That way I knew I was distributing the LEDs evenly. And here you'll see I've left some extra lights on each side for the bottom of the garland when it's attached to the gingerbread. So yeah, there we go, all ready. Luckily, you can stop the lights from flashing like that. I wouldn't have been able to cope if they'd been flashing. I can't stand flashing lights. So I'm using some hot melt glue gun in the hole now, and then just popping the pipe cleaner into that hole, and it kept it in place nicely. I repeated that process until they were all securely in place, and then once they were in place, I could finish wrapping the lights around the bottom of the garland. And then when I came to the end, I went back up the end of the garland to behind the hand and glued the battery pack into place behind the hand with some more hot melt glue. When that was done, I did wrap another pipe cleaner all the way around, covering up the wires but not covering up the little lights. And then here, all I'm doing is with some PVA glue, I'm adding some little acrylic gems so that it looks nice when the lights aren't switched on. Because it's great when the lights are on, but when they're not on, it's just a lot of green garland, and that's not very exciting, is it? So I just added some little sparkles on there, but you could use whatever you wanted. It would have been good if I could get hold of some really thin tinsel. Tinsel would have worked well wrapped around there, but I didn't have any, so I used what I had. And here it is, all finished, and I think it looks very cute now. I wasn't happy with it before, but I was happy with it in the end. So yeah, I was glad it didn't turn out good, because otherwise I wouldn't have thought about doing the garland, and it turned out much better. I like the fact that by using Aqua Cast you can make something large like this without it costing you too much, because if you did this just in resin, that would be a lot of resin. But with Aqua Cast, it's good and heavy and stable and a lot cheaper. But then you can decorate it with resin for that lovely shiny finish and get the best of both worlds. Doesn't that look great with the lights on? So we've come to the end of another video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's put you in the mood to start with your Christmas crafts nice and early. If you'd like to purchase anything that you've seen today, please check my video description for links and discount codes. Please give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe if you would like to, and I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.